Devlin, Untamed. The platform.
iOS, it's only sport. Martin Devlin, Lachlan War. The only independent radio sports program in New Zealand on a daily basis, 1 till 4, our afternoon show live on the platform. Well, this is the highlights package of. Lots more on the All Blacks versus Springboks as we build up to that first test in Joburg. Keeping up the Joneses today. We had a couple of them on, Chris from London and Harry from Joburg. Greg Martin, as always, every Thursday. Warriors icon, and I think I can call him that, 137 games for the club. Jazz Tevaga on the show. And against Cronulla, that's going to be the last time he wears the Warriors jersey. What's gone wrong so far this season, and where's he going to end up next? Simon Doull talking about the new $25 million ICC Temptation Fund. Is that enough to keep players playing Test cricket rather than all join the global T20 circus? We spoke with Craig McGrath, the Auckland NPC coach. Costo's Corner, we went through game by game, round 26 of the NRL, covered the US Open, all of that on the show. We'll try and squeeze as much as we can into this podcast, and we start the program the same way every day. Selectors' hats on. I say, tablets in hand, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. I'm Scott Robertson. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
The All Blacks are officially unveiled, 5 p.m. NZT, the team to take on South Africa and Joburg. Such an important test for coach Scott Robertson. A real test of exactly where the team is at right now. Have we improved from last year? What have we learned from the first 5 tests of this year? This, to me, is the easiest All Black team to select ever. There won't be any surprises. Barring injuries, the first 15 will be the same as we saw against Argentina. Front row, Tamaiti Williams, Cody Taylor, Tyrell Lomax. The locks are going to be Scott Barrett and Tupu Vai. The Lucies, same as Argy. It'll be Savia Blackadder and Papali'i. 9 and 10, TJ, Damien McKenzie, Geordie Rico. In the centres, the wings, Caleb Clark, Will Jordan, Bowden Barrett at fullback, and on the bench you'll have Newell, Offa, O'Moore, Sam Darry, Sam Kane, Cortez Ratima, ALB, and Mark Talea. Is that our best team? I'd argue that Kane should start. I'd like to see Sam Penny involved somehow. I'd change up the midfield. I'd put Will Jordan to fullback and start Bowden Barrett at first 5 with Ratima. But essentially, this is who we've got. This is it. There is no magic wand here. There is no wardrobe full of world-class All Black players that we've yet to see play. Basically, the same players we've watched lose 2 or 3 test matches every year for the last 5 years are it. This is not a world-class, world-beating All Black team on paper. But that doesn't also mean that we can't win. It's just that when I look at all of those names, I'm not brimming with confidence.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Lachlan, sports news in headline format.
Yes, a massive boost for the Springboks and one that wasn't quite
Hang on a
difficult to
second.
predict.
Don't tell us that this incredible miracle has occurred.
It has occurred.
Okay.
It was described as miraculous if it was to happen yesterday by coach Rassie Erasmus. Lock Eben Etzebeth has been declared fit to play
Remarkable.
and is now on the bench for Sunday morning's Rugby Championship test between the Boks and the All Blacks in Johannesburg. Cricket news, former international Jacob Oram is the Black Caps' new bowling coach, obviously former Kiwi international that is, filling the void left by Shane Jurgensen, who departed in November last year. Auckland FC have announced that ex-New Zealand footballers Winston Reid, Tim Brown and Noah Hickey have come on board as investors, joining existing local owners Ali Williams and Anna Mowbray. A big upset at the US Tennis Open with Wimbledon champion Barbara Krejcikova knocked out in the second round at Flushing Meadows. We'll keep you updated with other key results throughout the afternoon, including Novak Djokovic, who's in action. The next phase of the America's Cup gets underway as the 5 challengers go into battle to avoid elimination. We're currently on the eve of the round-robin stage of the Louis Vuitton Cup in Barcelona. Some football transfer news. Juventus and Italian winger Federico Chiesa is closing in on a move to Liverpool, one that will cost the Reds £10 million. That seems very cheap for quite a talented player. Southampton have agreed a fee with Arsenal to sign England goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale in a deal worth up to £25 million. The Paralympic Games have opened in Paris. It's been described as a spectacular opening ceremony in glorious conditions. Yes, by the sounds of it, whether the opening ceremony of the Olympics didn't get too indulgent. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin,
Oh my goodness me!
the platform.
Greg Martin joins us in 119. Marto, how amped are you, mate, about this Boks-All Black test?
Well, it's the two best teams in the world. Don't worry about Ireland, mate. Rematch of the World Cup final. This is so exciting. We see the heavyweights, but I'm very scared for you after what I saw them do to Australia. They're good, mate. They're better than they were at the World Cup by another 25%.
Yeah, they were saying yesterday, Rassie Erasmus was saying that. He reckons that they're a better team as well. I'm not so sure you can accuse us of being a better side than we were last year.
No one has accused you of being.
Okay, right, all right. Just in case you were ready. Yeah.
But listen, if I can give you one tip, don't kick to them. They are the complete team. I don't know if it's Tony Brown, probably that's part of it, they're being their attack coach. But you saw them against us. Do not kick the ball to them like we did. We've got to have a rethink about our kicking. That's us. But, mate, they'll squeeze you up front until you almost pop, and then they'll run like they are mad out wide now. They're now the best attacking team in the world. Not only are they great up front, they're now attack. How do you beat them? I have no idea. Good luck to you.
All right, so who do you believe more? Do you believe Latrell Mitchell saying, I don't know what I was doing bending over a table with white powder on a mirror, or do you believe Rassie Erasmus when he said, Etzebeth isn't going to play?
Well, it sounds like, have you heard in the last few hours, it sounds like he's miraculously fit
It's
again.
a miracle! It's a miracle! I laid hands upon his back. He was cured.
Oh, mate, he is amazing, Rassie. His mind games. He's more psychologist than coach. What he does, this, that, the signals, everything he does is wacky. I'd love to sit out and have a beer with him and try to work out what's going on in his brain. But he's got them functioning so well. I'd be very scared if I was you as a nation.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, I mean, we're kind of looking at look, it's not like we can't beat them. Let's be honest about that. We're bloody close in the World Cup final, and I think 12 or 13 of those 23 are going to run out there in Joburg, and a lot of those same guys were there in 2022 when we had to win to save Fozzie's job. So it is a been there, done that look about what this All Black team, when you hear it tonight, will be.
But it's Johannesburg. Anyone who's played at Johannesburg will realise you think you're close with 25 to go, and then they just steal. Well, the oxygen gets stolen from your body, and they steal the game simply because they keep going and they ramp it up. And then they bring on the bomb squad. How do you reckon go? You're already struggling. It's 10 minutes or maybe it's just half time, and they bring on a whole new pack. You can't keep up with them at the moment. They're in a different stratosphere. I'd love to think I could be proved wrong, but what you've seen, they play at that level every single game, whereas you guys, even better than us, you guys play at an inconsistent level at the moment. You're not putting it all together. I don't know why. Has there been calls for Razor to be sacked yet?
Oh, for God's sake, mate, just give him another couple of losses. Depends how we... Look, honestly, we're staring down the barrel, mate. If we lose both in South Africa, enormous pressure, because then we've got Ireland, England and France away at the end of the year. I think I've never been to Joburg. I've never been to Ellispark, but I can imagine that it's as feral as Caxton Street in the old days before the Origin.
Oh, God, yeah. We've got so many South Africans living here in Australia. I don't know whether they exported all their ferals over here, but they've got plenty left over there. They've got plenty of spare ferals. And you pack 75,000 into Ellis Park, it is a hell of a place, especially when the momentum starts to roll against you. Oh, it's not the place you want to be. You're gasping for air. You're looking up at the scoreboard going, are you kidding? There's 32 minutes to go. Oh, my God, I don't think I can get there. It's tough. It's tough, and I don't reckon this All Black team isn't one of your greats either. Are they kicking the right place?
No, they're not. That's the truth, mate. They're just, I mean, and statistics and the amount of losses we've had in 4 or 5 years with the same bunch of players say that. This is Greg Martin, Triple M Breakfast Toast out of Brisbane, of course, and the former Wallaby. Well, let's talk second division rugby then, and your lot playing Argentina for the Wooden Spoon. Oh, hang on a second, Argentina beat us.
Yeah, well, we'll be fighting in our proper weight category this weekend, so... and that's sad, but it's true. There won't be many people who have too much belief. I think it's on at 4 o'clock in the morning or something. There won't be too many people getting out of bed because the Wallabies don't excite anyone at the moment. I know we thought we were pretty good. Oh, look, we beat Wales. Oh, look, we beat Georgia. And then we realised when we played South Africa, oh, no, that's what proper rugby's about. Yeah, we should beat Argentina. maybe not.
Final.
Are you watching any of the Paralympics?
Oh, I missed the opening ceremony, but we've got a great mate who's a correspondent over there who's calling it, so we'll be in touch.
Mate, there's some great stories. I know you look at it and go, oh, no, it's upset. No, these are world-class athletes. Keep an eye on. We've got there's some of the stories. If you go, you look at them and go, what's happened to you? What's happened to you?
That's it.
We've got a table tennis player. He came from China when he was young. Only one arm. And you go, what happened to him? Apparently, when he was a little kid, he stuck his arm in a bear into the bear enclosure in China and bit his arm off. So what happened to you is the most vital thing you need to know about all these athletes, how they got there. It's incredible.
Finally, and I asked you this right at the beginning, are we going to beat the Springboks?
I said no, and I mean no.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Questions for you, Lachlan.
We need to talk.
New game.
We need to talk.
This game is called Do You Agree With Me?
Next!
Or do you agree with Marto? Let's start with him. Do you agree with him when he says that we're right up against it and he gives us, at best, a 40% chance of winning this game?
Yeah, I do, absolutely.
Do you think that's generous, 40%?
I think it's about right when you factor in our record. When you factor in that, well, I guess there's nothing else really to factor in because it's in their backyard. It's the world champions. It's a team that, we've played them 7 times over the last 3 or 4 years. And every year we split the matches, and then the one to sort of almost separate us was last year's World Cup final, and they won it. So we trade blows. But 40% is about right.
Next!
Do you agree with him that this is not a great All Black side?
Yes.
I don't know how you can argue anything else, people. Statistics say that. We've effectively dropped 15 games in the last 5 years because 13 losses, 2 draws. That is the worst record. I keep saying this, and no one wants to pick up on this. Nobody wants to make mention of it. This is the worst record of any bunch of All Black players ever. Go back through the history books. I've got Men in Black sitting behind me. If you want to come and borrow that, go back through the history books. 13 losses, 2 draws in 5 years. It's never been worse than that. And then, this year alone, you look at 2 scratchy performances against England, you look at an appalling effort against Argentina and Wellington, a brilliant first half against Argentina at Eden Park, and then the second half petered out, but the first half we'd won that game anyway. So all of that and a big pizza. Are you selecting a piece that says All Blacks win?
Next!
5050 on the text. Do you agree with Marto that Rassie Erasmus is the king of international rugby coaches?
Yes, without a doubt. He's
running rings around everyone, isn't he? Hey, look, it's a hell of a lot easier when you are back-to-back world champion coach. Like,
well,
if this
he
was
wasn't
a guy
technically the head coach at the last World Cup, even though he was
the puppet master pulling the strings.
Yeah.
But if we had beaten the Springboks in Paris, well, would he be on the pedestal that he is now? Because it's like everyone is just going, oh, there's Rassie, everything Rassie says, he's so funny, look at Rassie, so clever, says Rassie.
Probably not, but he'd be on a tier below. Like, you got the podium, there's 1, 2, and 3, he'd be 2.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Did you ever believe, Rassie, that Etzebeth wasn't...
Of course. Why would he lie?
I mean, we were talking about this yesterday. As soon as he mentioned the word miracle, you knew that water was going to be turned into wine with that guy, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, my God, I laid hands upon him and he's cured.
Next!
Do you agree with my All Black selection that this is essentially going to be the same team that runs out that played against Argentina at Eden Park?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Next!
But we won that game by 32 points, Martin. Shouldn't we be excited?
Well, when the All Blacks win like that, you play the same team, right? That's right. That's what you do. Although we didn't after we beat Fiji in San Diego. Did make some changes, Razor did. Final question. Do you agree with me that Eddie Jones, mate, should be hired by every single rugby team in the world, not as a coach, but as the guy that fronts the press conferences?
No. He should if you're losing a lot of tests.
Keeping up with the Joneses. Chris Jones out of London. Times online at rugbypass.com, and Haribaldi Jones, the 8-9 combo podcast, as well as the Lecker podcast out of Johannesburg. Continuing our big build up to Sunday, 3 a.m. Man, the World Heavyweight Championship of Test Rugby. All right, Chris, break it down for us, mate. How are we going to win this game at Ellis Park?
Well, you've got a pretty good record there, haven't you? So the whole thing about altitude and, it's such an intimidating stadium. Well, Fozzie didn't find it so intimidating, did he, back in 2022? That was a very important win for him. Since they came back in 92, it's 5-5 between you guys and the Boks at Ellis Park. So, look, there isn't that problem. And if these are the Boks coming to Eden Park with the record you've got, that would be you talking about it. I don't believe that anything, it's going to be a feral atmosphere going to the ground. Yes, it is every time you go to Ellis Park. But so that's nothing major there. So it goes to the on-the-field stuff. And quite honestly, Etzebeth will be in the match squad. We know he's going on the bench. I don't see him starting. And so there are opportunities. The problem is you lot haven't got a world-class line out. And I'm hoping that the return of Scott Barrett will help that, and that your hookers have had some time to get to know their jumpers again, because the number of missed balls has been very un-All Black-like. And you need, as it's classic here, and so when you play in South Africa, if you don't get those basics of the forward play right, you are going to get hurt badly. And that's where Tamati Williams comes in. That's where Lomax comes in. If they have big games and the Boks don't get that front foot ball in the scrum, and you only have to look at the second row and think, well, if they put Peter Steff up there, he's a converted lock. He's normally in the back row. He's not going to be shoving and taking the strain like Norwich. They're not an international class second row. So they're not going to have that power coming through. And so you have an opportunity there to really hold them up in the scrum, hold them up in the line out, and ask them some serious questions. And I think that's where your best chances come from.
Let's look at the two first fives, Sasha Feinberg, Munga Mazulu and Damian McKenzie. Now, Sasha, of course, playing the two tests against the Wallabies. The opposition is a hell of a lot easier. He's not under as much pressure. He's got a lot more time. And McKenzie has been okay. At times he's been brilliant. We've seen that. At times he's been a little flaky. Two very inexperienced first fives playing this kind of match at this kind of a stadium and against each other. So how kind of pivotal is the battle between these two?
It's massive, and Geordie's got to step up now with that noise in Mackenzie's ear, just to call him some plays, to give him a second pair of eyes, and to take some of that pressure off. Because we saw when Geordie got more involved in the game, you saw a lot more from Damien, and he could pull the strings successfully because the guy opposite him, is under massive pressure, and everybody talks about the All Blacks going into the arena of Ellis Park. For this guy wearing the famous Springbok number 10 jersey, he has to deliver. Same with Apeli Fassi at fullback. These are two guys who could be exposed by Mackenzie and his kicking game, backed up by the kicking game that Geordie brings to the table as well. Because you want to pull the fullback all over the place. He's tall and skinny, and he hasn't had the greatest career under the high ball. So you want your fellow backs and your wings absolutely hammering into him. And same with your back row guys. With Mazulu, you want him take that comfort that they're going to feel about we're world champions. We are the team to beat. You want to get them out of that comfort zone. And that's what teams have found very difficult with South Africa, if you allow them to start dictating. And I don't believe going into this test match, they have a pack to dictate. Yes, but because Misa's back, he hasn't played for months. And he will bring that sort of physicality that is always difficult to play against in South Africa. But if they get a problem with their locks, he's got to go and become the front jumping lock. And there's something, he's very good at many things. Playing second row is not one of them.
I noticed that there is a late change now that Etzebeth has been added to the bench, so he's part of the bomb squad. As soon as it was announced yesterday, this team and Rassie Erasmus was saying he could play, he may miraculously all of a sudden, be recover from his injury or whatever. It's straight away. The red flag went up, didn't it? And you thought, okay, this guy is going to make an impact. The other one I want to talk about is Andre Pollard, who starts on the bench. This guy, we know. I mean, he in the defeat to Ireland, he kicked 8 kicks. Okay, I mean, he's an absolute weapon. And at altitude, he's going to everything within 60 metres. He'll kick. What role is he going to play? Because for me, if I was Rasmus, I would be starting him, given the fact that he's worth 12 points off the boot the moment he walks on the field.
Yeah, but in that argument, you'd start Willie LaRue at fullback as well. He wants to find out about these young kids. And yeah, he has a comfort blanket in the fact that you have got Andre on the bench and he can kick you a 60-metre winning goal. He can kick you a 50-metre winning drop goal. But the fact is, the way they want to play under Tony Brown is not with Pollard at 10. And it was the most amazing press conference with Rassie yesterday. Either he had 6 or 7 coffees before he came into it, or he was just naturally hyper because he went through every single player who's ever played for him.
Yes.
And he went round in circles about Etzebeth when you knew what was going to happen is that he was going to turn up in the max squad. And he just turned it. He went round and round in circles, gave a great explanation about he hurt his knee, but it's not as bad as we all think. And yes, we've got a protocol, but we probably won't use it this time because we need him on the bench. It was nuts. And he then went on to Pollard. And very interesting, he said, Pollard who can play 12. And I really think they're looking at him in that role that Geordie has with the All Blacks.
Has there been a more fascinating game of rugby since I don't know. I think that Ireland versus Springbok match in the opening rounds of the World Cup last year, we had so much eye on that, didn't we? Thinking, okay, this is Ireland's time and so forth. But there are just so many different aspects, storylines, selectorial questions, and everything to this. Do you believe that we go in almost even into this game, or do you really give the Springboks an edge?
I would say a 60-40 box, and I think it would be 50-50 if Etzebeth wasn't on the bench, because it's going to happen. Even if things aren't going great, he's going to come on with 125 caps. It's just going to lift that pack, and it'll also add a physicality I think they are missing in the second row at the moment. Yeah, Peter Steph Detroit, fantastic player. He is not a world-class second row. He doesn't have that ability to scrum like Etzebeth. So 50-50 if he wasn't anywhere near the squad. 60-40 is the South Africans. They're at home as well.
Devlin.
You better believe it!
The platform.
So that was Chris, and here comes Harry. Harry, I'm calling this the heavyweight championship of the world of rugby.
Yo, it was always the unofficial championship of the world before there were World Cups and all those things. It's still actually the world championship because these two teams seems to meet each other in the finals anyway, right?
Look, and that's what I'm going back to last year, and trying to get the confidence from that and that Rugby World Cup final where it was 12-11. I know that on paper at the moment and the results so far this year for the Springboks, especially against the Aussies, have been so goddamn impressive. But do you agree with me that it's going to be a lot more even than perhaps any of us think?
Yeah, I always liken this fixture, and have since I was a little boy, to like siblings, and I think the All Blacks in my mind have always been cast as the older sibling, got a little bit more pedigree, a little more, smarts, always seem to have the psychological edge. But as the younger brother sort of grows into himself, sometimes you can catch up. So I think the last 11 meetings is 5-1, right? 5 wins, 5 losses. It's even as could be. There's a couple of blowouts here and there, but I think this comes back to the old, grudge match, not much in it, a couple of great moments and a couple of errors, and that tells the tale.
Where the Springboks sit at the moment and what we saw against Australia, a couple of things really stand out. A, you're on form, we get that. B, there's a hell of a lot of depth now in that squad. And C was the innovation that brought against Australia. Not sure whether or not we're going to see some of those same tactics, but just in terms of where the Springboks sit and how good the team is at the moment, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Rassie Erasmus didn't like the fact that we only had one plan A, and then, plan A1. He wanted to get to plan B and C. Exhibit A is Tony Brown's hire. And then you look against Ireland and as well as the Wallabies, there are different, places the Boks are playing. Peter Steph Toy is on a wing, Sia Khaleesi's on the other wing, and then there's patrollers in the middle with unlikely culprits, carrying the ball. So it's not the same old Springbok. The second thing is he's got 1,000 caps in the first 15. He's got 1,000 caps in the second 15. Rossi's interested in that third because, it's the Stephen Donald rule. You never know who you're going to have to call in to the match at the very end in 2027, but it cannot be guys who are 33 and 34 right now. So I think that's the one story. The second story is the Boks actually made more breaks, threw the ball around more than the other teams in the first 2 rounds. And they didn't finish off the breaks, but they were developing more. So I think there's early signs of what he was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, that contrast in styles, isn't it? I mean, this is going to be such a fascination because traditionally with the All Blacks, we've had the idea that, hey, we go and we're going to run and we're going to move that ball quickly and we're going to get your big forwards and we're going to tire them out. And we saw that in 2022 where, even though down to 14 in the last 10 minutes, the Boks were gassed against us. Yet at the same time, you look at it now and think, are we still capable with this current team of playing that game? And it's not like it's going to be a major surprise if we spring it anyway.
And also the All Blacks have kind of upsized a bit. You look at the props; they're big fellas. It's a very tight scrum. I don't think the Boks are thinking we're going to monster the All Blacks in the scrum. I think basically you look at that as parity. I think the difference comes now in the speed on the field. I mean, there's several Springboks that are just flat out sprinting blazers. Fassi is one I talked about. Justin Colby, Kurtley Arendse. Grant Williams at the base, or Kobus Ranach, those are proper sprinters back in school days. So I do think there's a bit of a different twist here. I think maybe the All Blacks wouldn't mind it if it was a bit of a grind. They kicked 35 times, your boys did, against Argentina the second time around, and it looked much better. It was change-up kicking. It was little rollers and jumpers and bouncers and diagonals and kick passes and chip kicks. And I think that's what they did when they beat the Boks before the World Cup, was a variety of kicking. It wasn't so much to straight line speed. I think the only flyer, maybe Aoni, Rico, is probably the only flat out flyer in the All Blacks anymore. So I think maybe you guys might go to the unlikely tactic of trying to overpower the Boks.
In terms of the lineouts, just in terms of just the aerial side of the game, and I defer to Murray Mexted on this, and Mex is so big on this because it's not just about winning that set piece ball. Now, you've got the box kick, you've got kickoffs, and these are really crucial areas of the game to actually be really tight, maintain possession when that happens. And that is an obvious advantage area for the Springboks. We just don't have height in our back row at the moment.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point because I think with the Boks selection, you have at least 4 targets, probably 5. You saw kind of an innovation against the Wallabies where you had Ben Jason Dixon rising in the back with 2 lifters, catching the ball. Eben Etzebeth had moved back 1 yard, and then he took it on a lift himself, which allowed him to latch and then form a maul, which drove over for a try. So I think the All Blacks face that, which is the throws can go anywhere, front, middle, back. They can be a double pump. And they can ignite a maul, which is like what I call an aircraft carrier nowadays for the Boks. It rolls, it can score, but also can launch other attacks off of it, with Chess and Colby playing 9. So I would think this is what's been keeping the All Black coaching staff up is how do we recognize those plays? They're confident enough, the Boks now, to just put the ball anywhere in the line out. Whereas I think on All Black ball, they're going to really want to have a set play, know what it is, go to the first 5 lineouts and know exactly what I'm doing so you don't have any tentativeness. So once that first throw goes off for Cody Taylor or whoever is playing, Amoa maybe, that, as you and I know, that goes downhill in a hurry when the hooker has the yips.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight 5.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly 60 seconds or so on each. And yes, okay, remind us again when that happens. We will move on to the next topic and do it with haste when we hear the bell. Etzebeth is back in the bomb squad. Oh, what a surprise or not, Lachlan. Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu versus Damian McKenzie, both very inexperienced first fives. How do you read this battle? Cowboys Storm tonight. Storm resting 10 players. Buzz Roth, is it Rothfield? Roth who? Field says they're cheating the fans, mate. I disagree with you, Buzzo. Lewis Rees Zammit. Remember this guy? He left Welsh rugby. And the headlines at the time were both embarrassing and cringeworthy, written by a whole lot of people in the UK who have no idea at all about anything about the NFL. Basically, they were pumping this guy's tyres up, saying that he was going to the Kansas City Chiefs and he was going to become an NFL star. Well, he didn't make the roster. No great surprise there. He's now in the practice squad at the Jaguars. This is just one of those puff promo kind of pieces that the mainstream media clickbaiters absolutely love. If you dive deep into this, there was no way that this guy, in that short period of time, was ever going to succeed in the NFL. As well as that, do Paralympians drug cheat? Do they? And a punishment for Latrell Mitchell after the photo, which he says he doesn't know what he was doing or how it came about, where he was crouching over a table and it looked like he was celebrating with Hawke's Bay after they won the Ranfurly Shield. Etzebeth back in the bomb squad. No surprise at all here. What was Rassie Erasmus up to, do you think? I mean, does he think he's that clever that he fools people, or is he just taking the piddle here and because he just knows that every word that he says is going to be reported? And it was obvious Etzebeth was always going to play, wasn't it? As soon as he said the word miracle.
Yeah, I mean, for starters, there'll be some people who will fall for it and go, oh no, Etzebeth's not playing. They're not really taking into account what Rassie's saying and not know what his original tricks are. At the same time, there might have been a couple of occasions in the past, or he may do this in the future, where he doesn't name someone, suggests, oh, they could make a recovery, and we're all like, oh, it means they're playing, and then he doesn't actually play them.
So just smoke screens, I suppose. Gives us all something to talk about, doesn't it?
Well, it's just like his Twitter account. He's obviously quite prominent on Twitter.
People.
He has, 200,000 plus followers?
250,000 followers or something, right?
He follows one account.
And that is?
The All Blacks. He only follows the All Blacks Twitter.
Brilliant, isn't it? Look, we love Rassie Erasmus. We love the weirdness that he brings. Obviously, the coaching excellence, the innovation and everything else. But as I said earlier, look, it's a hell of a lot easier being popular when you are also a winner, which he is back-to-back World Cups. I hope I pronounced this right, Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu versus Damien McKenzie. They're both pretty raw at playing that position in Test rugby. I know that McKenzie's got experience playing elsewhere, but this is first five versus first five on the high veld in the most important match of either's career. Do you think both of them are going to have barnstorming games?
So neither have started at first five in a Test on the high veld, is that what you're saying?
Against each other.
Oh, against each other. Okay, well, that's pretty easy. Sorry, what was your question?
Well, I just wonder whether the occasion will get to either of them, to both of them, or whether they'll both cope with it. I mean, who's going to walk out of there showered in rose petals at the end of this? Because as far as Sasha is concerned, Ngomazulu, he's not going to play the full game. We already know that. Andre Pollard will come on at some stage.
Well, I need to get this name right. Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu. He is 22. He's very young, a lot younger than McKenzie. He hasn't played much for the Springboks. I'm assuming his Wikipedia is accurate. I hope it is. He's played 6 tests. He debuted this year. Have they already played 6 tests this year? Jeez.
I've played at least 5.
Oh, I guess 2 against Ireland. They had that Portugal match, was it?
That's right.
Australia twice. They've only played 5. So he must have debuted before this year. Or at least his Wikipedia numbers. Anyway, he's very young, very inexperienced. He's very attacking focus for a first five, which is very un-South African. Really, I watched some of his highlights this morning. A great ball runner. He's big. He looks a lot bigger than what it says. It says he stands at 6'1". He's 94 kgs, which is big for a first five. But even then, he looks bigger. He can play second five as well, so he's a bigger body. So he'll play a different style of game, but also I would have much more faith in him having a steadier performance purely because he's at home. He plays for the Stormers and he's from Cape Town, so he's not obviously as used to the high veld, but he's at home. McKenzie's not. He's in a team that I think, this is just an assumption, when you're the world champions, back-to-back world champions, even if you debut for the team after both those World Cups or towards the end of that spell of dominance, you feed off the confidence and the expertise, but the success of the team around. Of
course you do.
So I would think he's far better. See, Presley agrees with me. He's far better set up to succeed than McKenzie. I'll say one thing about Damien McKenzie. Sure, he's inexperienced playing this position, particularly in South Africa. He ain't inexperienced in Test rugby. He debuted in 2018, I think.
But
Might have been
playing first five up on the high
before
belt, having to run the cutter for the All Blacks.
Yeah, well, no, you can't use inexperience as a reason as to why you might underperform. Damien McKenzie doesn't have that luxury. He's a bit like Dalton Papali'i, who's played most of his rugby off the bench, to be fair, for the All Blacks. At the same time, I don't care. You've played a certain number of tests. You've been at this team for a long time. Yep. You've been picked to play. You're supposedly the best first five in the country.
Totally agree with that. As far as Ngoma Zulu goes, he's behind a forward pack that is rampaging forward as well, which is going to be a huge advantage. Cowboys Storm tonight. Do you agree with Buzz Rothfield that they're cheating the fans, the Melbourne Storm?
No,
I think this is just it's a ridiculous comment to make because look, it's a hell of an attrition war, the NRL round robin competition. What is Craig Bellamy's job? His job is to win a premiership. He's already won the minor premiership for the 5th time in the last 10 seasons. The guy has got more experience than everyone else in the competition bar Wayne Bennett. He knows how to prepare his team for the finals. I don't think he's going to rest players in the next 2 consecutive weeks before the first finals game, because that first finals game, they win that, they then get another week off. But if I'm resting players, it's this game, Lachlan. He may turn out most of his guys against you guys, Brisbane, the following week, because they have to be, there's that fine balance between, do I keep resting them, or they just, play mock-up games and training, or do they actually stay match fit? And there's an argument that, hey, and we see this in the NFL quite often, that a wildcard team will win because they keep playing week after week, and sometimes having the week off doesn't help. But Bellamy knows what he's doing. And Buzz Rothfield, he's not doing this to cheat the fans or anything. He's doing it because he believes this is the best way his team can win. I don't think it's cheating the fans, is it?
Not at all. He said, I think you're ripping them off. He talks about fans travelling from remote areas in North Queensland. They travel up to 6 hours to watch a game of footy. Well, for starters, that's not going to stop the Cowboys from going up there.
As far as I'm a North Queensland fan, I'm saying rest your whole team, mate. I'm stoked.
I want to win this match. That argument doesn't hold up.
No.
At the same time, there's a couple of things. One, this has been happening for not just decades probably in the NRL. For as long as I've been watching it and following it, teams do this. When they lock in a spot, whether they are the minor premiers with a couple of weeks to go, or they can't move anywhere, or the results don't matter, them winning their last regular season or second to last or whatever, it doesn't impact their position on the table, then for the finals, that is, it happens all the time. It's not new. And we talked a bit about this yesterday. As well as that, one thing I don't like about the Fox Sports do this, I think the Australian television sports media do this, and I would say they Americanise themselves, but I don't even think America does this. But it feels Americanized where they talk about the product, they talk about fans, they talk about cheating the fans, they talk about money. When these guys were over in Vegas, they talked about how, Buzz Rothfield, I remember him saying this, I can't believe, Americans wouldn't want to buy into the NRL. It's a much better game than the NFL. It's like, well, that's a stupid argument. You're talking about a game that's embedded in American culture for over 100 years. So when it comes to takes like this, I always feel like they're either off and they're playing to an audience that is just not me, or they just don't know what they're talking about.
I'll go for number 2 on that. Speaking of people who don't know what they're talking about, Lewis Rees-Zammit, the Welsh winger, moved to the NFL with much fanfare, especially from the UK press. I'm about to read you a whole lot of just absolutely cringeworthy headlines that were around at the time. And we made mention of this. If you know anything about the NFL, the chance of anyone from rugby going over there and actually making the cut is so minuscule. Jared Hayne did it, got dropped after the first muffed pass that he actually dropped. He did incredible to get into that San Francisco 49ers 53. He really did. Valentine Holmes got nowhere near it. Lewis Rees-Zammit has been cut by the Kansas City Chiefs. Look, there's only 53 on the roster. Multiply by 32 teams, you get 1,664 players. You've got the same in backup squads, right? Because you have practice squads, and these guys
I think the practice squads are 17.
Okay, so you've got about 3,000 players. That's it. Okay, now there's probably more than 500,000 that want these jobs. To think that somebody has come from rugby and that they would say, it's cringeworthy. Here are some of the headlines. Incredible. This was from back then when he made the switch. Lewis Rees-Zammit made for NFL crossover. He's got great speed, pace, and power, and he's been compared to stars like the Chiefs' Travis Kelce. That was one, okay? That was from Talk Sport in England. Ex-rugby ace Lewis Rees-Zammit. Was he an ace? He was playing for Wales, mate. Come on. I mean, okay.
He was an up-and-comer.
Ex-rugby ace Lewis Rees-Zammit given 3 offers from the NFL franchises after impressing scouts. This guy from the Mirror. His decision to quit rugby and make it as an NFL player has paid off. Same guy from the Daily Mirror. Lewis Rees-Zammit has USP to succeed in NFL. That guy speaking on TNT Sports. And this is my favourite one. Louis Rees-Zammett's NFL success should be a concern as the Americans are poised to be parked on rugby's lawn. His success?
What success?
What success? He's part of a pathways program initiated by the NFL, and this is a promo exercise to get publicity and front page headlines every time they take those NFL teams to London. They're trying to establish a foothold over there because eventually they want a team in London, a full-time team.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
This is embarrassing.
Yeah,
The way I'm not heaping on the guy at all. He can do what he likes, play wherever he likes. He's now gone to the Jacksonville Jaguars practice squad. What I'm heaping on here is the clickbait nature of these stories written by people who have no knowledge at all of what that sport is, what it takes. And it's just gobbled up here in New Zealand. These stories are reported verbatim. This kind of stuff just rips my nightie.
Yeah, well, just quickly, the worst thing about it is you say that there's the naivety of people who aren't Americans writing about it, acting like they know what's going on. They did this with Jared Hayne, and it really, really annoyed me. Australia got up in arms about it, thought this was the greatest thing ever. He didn't make the team. People then acted like he made the team. It's really hard to make these teams. You've got to think about the high schools, the college systems, the amount of people who don't even make it into the draft. You know, there's so...
Well, look at Dustin Keisha, who's now quit college football because he couldn't actually get a start. Now he's going back to athletics. Oh, I want to run at LA 2028. Of course you do. But you also didn't make it, mate. It's okay that you didn't make it. It's a hell of an ask for anyone to... Yeah. It's not in your DNA to play this sport.
The fact you're giving it a go is commendable.
It's admirable, mate. But just calm the fun.
Understand the sport you're talking about before you write an article about it.
Do Paralympians drug cheat?
Yes, of course they do.
I think they do too. I would be amazed if there wasn't a Paralympian who's a drug cheat. I mean, they want to win gold medals, right? Final one. I'm not saying that anyone's been, anyone's positive yet, but I just think you'd be naive to think not. Jazz Tevaga, a real fan favourite for the Warriors. 137 games so far for the club. It's been the only club that he's played for. He wanted to stay his whole career. He made that very clear. Club cut him, though. We don't know where he's going to go next. We had him on the show today. And asked first up, where's it all gone wrong so far this season?
Good question. Bro, there's a lot of things, I reckon. Injuries is probably the main thing that's hurt us. I think we haven't been able to field, our strongest 17 at all this year, I don't think. And yeah, bro, like, I know that's not an excuse because, injuries are part of the game, but every week it just seemed like, one of our main players would cop and lock and they'll be out for a couple of weeks. And the inconsistency of our team, it was hard to get a good flow. We'd show patches, but then someone would get injured again and then, we'd lose someone. So that's what I want to put my finger on, bro, and that's what I say first thought. I'll leave it at that.
Well, fundamentally, when you look at the squad from last year, look at the squad from this year, and what was achieved last year and what hasn't been able to be achieved this year, has there been any concerns or any issues about fitness, about the way you prepared for the season that was any different, anything like that?
No, I don't think fitness was a problem at all. I would put it down to... like I said, the injuries, but I think the fundamentals this year were pretty poor under pressure. We lost 8 games with less than 6 points. We lost 8 games by 6 points or less. We win at least half of those. We were in the 8, just in key moments this year when we were under pressure, we had a concentration error, whether it was an error, whether it was a penalty. So I'd say we were pretty poor when we were under pressure on those stages. Yeah.
Was there any disruption within the team with Adam Whare-Blake leaving and the fact that he was going to Cronulla? Did that cause any of that?
Nah, I don't think so. Not at all. Even though he was leaving, people sign contracts all the time when they're leaving. It was good that he announced it early in the year so that we knew. And the numbers he just chalked up the season, but we can't fault him for any of that. His effort's been outstanding. He's been carrying us again, like he did last year, and I don't think it would play the disruption at all.
Jazz Tevaga ahead of the Warriors game against Cronulla, final match of the season, and your final match as a Warrior too. How do you look back and at your career? Because you're going to have a bit of time to think about this. A lot of people are going to ask you, what would you like people to think about you as a Warriors player?
Yeah, I would like them to think that I was someone who had a crack. I was very passionate for this team, for the club, for the jersey. I cared about my mates, and every time I put the jumper on, I gave it my all. And sometimes, I'll just say that, bro. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
No, that's fine. And look, I think that's perfect, actually. I think that a lot of people, a lot of us fans look at you and just say you are the atypical Warriors player as far as we're concerned. Homegrown, just play your heart out every time that you play, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest of blokes, and I'm right in the thick of it. So, you had to have some sort of, I had to bring my balls every time I stepped on the field, and I tried really hard, and sometimes I tried too hard, which was something I had to learn. And every time I put the jersey on, bro, I gave it my all.
It's an unforgiving league, isn't it? And I'm going to reference a few games. Chance I was listening to yesterday, the first game against the Sharks, a good lead. Against the Bulldogs last weekend, a good lead. Against Melbourne, a good lead. Against the Titans, a good lead. These are all leads in the first 20 minutes, but can't sustain them. You look at those 4 games and think, when you're up 12 or 14 points, you should be able to shut those down. If that's the case, again, it would be a top 8 we'd be talking about. Yeah,
look, there's been numerous occasions where we've been up early and then we've let it slip. And then there's been times where we've been down, but we come back in the second half and we give ourselves a chance. I think next year they've got to learn how to obviously start well, but hold on to that lead and put pressure on the team. And then also know that if we are down, we can come back. But then we need to learn how we close out games.
Where are you going to go next, mate? What's next?
I'm not too sure yet myself, bro. Look, I'm talking to clubs now at the moment, and signing a contract is going to come late in the season. Hopefully it speeds up after teams get knocked out and whatnot. So, when I know, I'll let you know.
So is it going to be down here? It's not going to be in England? You'd rather stay in the NRL?
Nah. Yeah, I'm going to stay in the NRL, bro. I'm only 28. I still got a, NRL left under me. I feel like I'm just getting into my prime, like I'm maturing, and but I've still got some left in the tank before I head over to the UK.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Earlier in the week, the ICC announced a $25 million temptation fund. Well, I'm calling it a temptation fund. It is a rescue package, supposedly, for Test cricket. What it is trying to provide a big pile of cash so that players will still commit to playing the longer form of the game, the most glorious form of the game, rather than be tempted into the hit and giggle competitions all over the world. Is it enough, though? Simon Doull, who spends his whole life calling cricket all over the world, joined us to discuss. Is that enough money? Is that really going to make a difference? I just can't see how, when you stack up cash on cash, that's going to convince anyone to actually give up the circuit and go, okay, well, I will commit.
I don't know whether it makes an enormous difference, but to some players it might. I mean, in New Zealand cricket, I was sort of reading through that the statement, and they're talking about trying to introduce a minimum test match payment of $10,000 per player. Now, if you are a player on a New Zealand contract, and let's take this season, for example, if you're just a Henry Nicholls, or if you were just a Neil Wagner type player, who's really only playing test match cricket. Tom Latham's slightly different because he plays the 50 over stuff as well. 9 test matches on top of your New Zealand contract, a guaranteed 90,000 extra US dollars per year on top of your $180,000 to $200,000 contract. Those are the sort of things that you will look at. But again, you're probably not targeting the right area, because a lot of the only test match players aren't the wanted players in these smaller leagues or these T20 leagues around the world. You're looking at your your crash bang wallop, your short format players. So I think they've got the right idea, but the strategy around it, I'm not sure will work for every nation, because you aren't targeting the right sort of people to pay that extra money to. Those who only play Test cricket are basically going to do the same thing anyway. You're just going to make their pay a little bit better, but they're not the guys. The Craig Brathwaites, who captained the West Indies for a few years. I mean, he's not the type of player that's going to be sought after in a T20 league around the world. So it's a little bit in between for me. I like the concept. I like the idea that players in Zimbabwe, for instance, are going to get paid a certain match fee. That will certainly elevate Test cricket from their point of view. From New Zealand's point of view, I don't know that it's going to make a massive difference to stopping players going away, but it will make the Test match players a lot better paid, which is probably not a bad thing.
Simon Doull is with us out of the UK. He spends his whole life calling cricket all around the world as well, and you do such a brilliant job at it, mate. We appreciate your time as always. But what I don't appreciate is waking up on a Sunday morning and getting a photo of Brighton Pier. Because it's, the dagger through the heart.
Marty,
in the
isn't it just such a beautiful spot down there? I mean, look, it made me want to drive down to Brighton just to feel the celebrations.
Well, we play you lot this Monday morning, New Zealand time, mate. And I tell you what, if we manage to snick any kind of result, you're going to get a video of the leaking rain fest that is Old Trafford these days, because it will be raining on your title parade.
Well, what I will do, Marty, for you, and here's just without trying to sound too big notey here. My son's over at the moment, Hunter, and I know your boys are into their football as well. He's for my sins, he is a Manchester United fan.
I love him already.
And I'm taking him to the game on Sunday at 4 p.m. local time. We will be sitting with Sir Alex Ferguson. So I'll make sure I say hello for you and tell him what a great man you think he is. And Hunter's so excited, mate. I've never been to Old Trafford for a football game. So as falling down and as leaky as it might be, I think it'll be one heck of a day. So I cannot wait. And he's absolutely over the moon about being able to go. So I'm going to enjoy that one firsthand in with the Old Trafford faithful. So it'll be an interesting afternoon for the two of us. I'll have to be very stum, I think, if Liverpool do score or if the result goes our way.
How did you get those tickets?
I know the man I know Avram Glazer's right-hand man quite well. So
okay.
I've managed to find my way into a very, very swanky box at the game on Sunday. So, the privileges of doing what I get to do allow me one or two other privileges, which I'm very, very grateful for always. And I know it's not something that a lot of people get to experience, but it'll be a heck of a day.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show 1 till 4 Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do though is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.